Hi, this is Amy K. Watson, and welcome to your first video in the Inspirational Leader training series. This is it. Now, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about your leadership. So I want you to get a pen, some paper, take notes while we're going through this, because you're going to have some breakthrough experiences. You're going to have some ahas. You're going to start to see places where you can do things differently. So I want you to make a note of that so that that'll be there for you. What we're going to do first is we're going to talk about these 5 relationship pitfalls. These are ways in which most of us get off track somewhere along the line. And for each of these pitfalls, I'm going to share with you an example and what the consequences are of continuously going that way. So here's the first one: over-functioning. Are you an over-functioning leader? Now, what I mean by over-functioning is that you are doing more than your fair share in a relationship. You probably are pretty familiar with this because most of us who are leaders are over-functioners. So here's an example. You have a volunteer who steps up and says that they are going to lead a project. And when I say volunteer, for this example, it really is a volunteer. This is somebody who's not getting paid. Maybe they're just ready to step into leadership. Maybe they're excited about the project. They really want to contribute, so they say they're going to do it. So you help them out. You help to set them up for success. You let them know what the deadlines are and the dates. And the time comes, and then it's crickets. There's nobody to be found. Nobody's doing the work that has to be done in order to meet the project deadlines. So what do? You do it, don't you? I know you do. We've all been there. Because we care about the results. We want to make sure that those results happen. We don't want things to fall on their faces. And so we make it happen instead of allowing a project to fail just because somebody didn't step up. But what are the results of this? What happens is you wind up doing way too much. You may even feel like you are doing everything, that everything depends on you. And you do enough of this, what you're looking at is burnout and exhaustion. You may already be feeling that. So one way that you got there was through over-functioning. The second relationship pitfall that you may have fallen into, it's another one that leads to burnout and exhaustion: people-pleasing. What do I mean by people-pleasing? That's when we are doing everything that we can to keep people from being upset. We don't want them to be upset. We don't want them to be unhappy. And so we bend over backwards trying to make them happy. So an example of this is when you hear a complaint, you actually change your behavior in hopes that the complaint will go away. So what's the consequence of doing that? What's so wrong with trying to make people happy? Well, for one thing, as a purpose-driven leader, if you are trying to make people happy, one thing that you're doing is you're denying them part of what it means to be fully human. And that includes some unpleasant emotions. That includes feeling angry. It includes feeling disappointed or sad or uncomfortable. It's okay for us to feel those things. It's okay for us to have those experiences. And yet if somebody is really trying to make us happy, then there's something about those experiences that they don't want us to feel. Is that where you're putting your energy? Because if you are, not only are you trying to prevent them from having this experience, you're also leading yourself right into that burnout and exhaustion. The third of our professional relationship pitfalls is defending yourself. You're falling into defending yourself if, when somebody makes a complaint, you put your energy into explaining why you did what you did, explaining why you were right. So, for example, I worked with the executive director of a nonprofit once, and his board chair accused him of acting unilaterally because he hired an assistant. And so my executive director explained, well, that's my job. I'm supposed to make decisions like this. It's part of my contract. You hired me in part to make personnel decisions. It's not so bad that the explanation itself was wrong. It was actually quite correct. But the problem is, if this is a pattern that you fall into, and you're constantly explaining why you did the right thing, even though people are bringing problems to you or complaints where they think that you did the wrong thing, they're not hearing the logic or the rightness of your argument. It's kind of unfair, but what they're hearing is somebody who can't look at themselves, can't really hear what they are saying, and isn't willing to really listen to them. And so then you may get additional complaints about how you're not really listening and you're not really there for them. So they may get the impression then that you're closed-minded, that you're unable to see reality. They're not hearing how right you are. Our fourth relationship pitfall is a lack of accountability. Now, a lack of accountability is what happens when you're avoiding taking action because something is going to be uncomfortable or it's difficult. So, for example, we've got a nursing home with high turnover in the nursing staff. Dig a little deeper, find out that the head of the nursing staff is really abrasive, really harsh, and her executive director is unable to confront that, unable to clarify what's the correct behavior, what's the standards that we're going to hold you to, and actually set up some form of accountability for that. So what happens then is something that a friend of mine calls, you get the nurturing nest. So the nurturing nest is what you have when you have a culture where all kinds of really unacceptable behaviors are tolerated. And it could be anything from treating people poorly to not doing your job very well, not showing up on time. It could be anything. So your results suffer, you get low productivity, you have poor relationships, high turnover, poor service, and you may wind up hiring a lot of expensive temps. Okay, and our fifth relationship pitfall is lack of focus. And you are probably so familiar with lack of focus. This is what's happening when you are too distracted to be able to make progress on what's most important to you. So if you spend your entire day working hard and then you go home at the end of the day and you feel like, I did nothing, this is a really good symptom that you are suffering from lack of focus. And this is a relationship pitfall because it means that the people that you're spending your time and attention on are the squeaky wheels. And you're not spending your time and attention on those people who can help you to further your purpose. So these are our 5 relationship pitfalls: overfunctioning, people-pleasing, defending yourself, lack of accountability, and lack of focus. So what I'd like to ask you, knowing that you have the power to change all of that, which of these are you most able to relate to? One of the tools that I use most often in my work is very commonly known as the Serenity Prayer. It says, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So the heart of the training for this video is that all 5 of these are things that you can change. How you contribute to those relationships is something that you can change. And one of the things that makes the most difference in difficult situations like that is being grounded in your sense of purpose. So I'd like to draw your attention, below this video somewhere is a link to something called the Purpose Profiler. The Purpose Profiler is one of my gifts to you. It's a way for you to think about the things that are your God-given gifts, the passion that you have for doing work in the world, and it will help to take you through to identifying a pretty clear sense of purpose for yourself just right now. Now, one thing I want to clarify is that your purpose in this sense is not something that you share with everyone who's in your profession or everyone who's in your organization. It's not something that you learned in Sunday school, and it's not your corporate mission. Your personal sense of purpose is, it's also known as your superpower, your genius. It's your God-given talents. It's something that's unique for you. And with the Purpose Profiler, I'm just going to ask you to take time to fill it in. Probably over the next couple of days, you're going to fill in your answers to all but one of the questions. And that last question, you're going to fill in just before you watch the next video. In between, every day, I'm going to ask you to read through all of your answers to all of those questions every day. Let it sink in, let it gel. See what happens when your answers to those questions kind of knock around in your own mind and encounter the world that you're a part of, so that when we get to that day when the next video comes out, you're going to read through it one more time. I believe that by that time you're going to have a strong sense for, wow, if all of this is true, then my sense of purpose today is this. So that's that last question that you're going to answer. It's going to help to give you clarity. It's going to help to give you a sense of what it is that you want to make progress towards. And that clarity is really what helps you to get that progress. So purpose is just about what are you all about. It helps to give you some focus. And then in the next video, our second training, it's all about how to manage those crazy makers. Those people who can get you stuck so that you're not living your purpose. So which of these pitfalls can you relate to the most? Look over your notes, fill out the Purpose Profiler, and I will see you next time.